blowing my eardrums out. Foundry. Not sure how, but hey. I thought I would try and save as much of the aluminium that hit the floor yesterday as possible. It went everywhere. That split mould was full at the time, so it's 8 inches diameter by 8 inches long. What is that, about 160 cubic inches? Yeah, I suppose it's about 2.6 litres, so I had like over 2 litres of aluminium end up on the floor yesterday. So I've been separating it all back off of what it fell on. This wasn't too bad, all the molten cans that detonated and that was a bit more awkward, but I got most of it back. So yeah, this was me just heating out a piece of steel that it got captured on to free it up and knock it off, which actually worked. Thankfully, because there's a fair chunk of aluminium there. Turns out I am easily impressed. The random bits of aluminium that have fallen are very strong. Some of it you cannot even split with this pickaxe, which I think I'm about to find out. So, although my friend told me this stuff is soft, thinking about it, it's pretty bloody hard at the same time. I'm going to add the copper anyway, because he said to add the copper, or split it with like 50-50 with cast aluminium parts. So I'll do one or the other. God, look, that's like a bit much, and picking up all those little tiny bits of copper. Yeah, and I also got to beat up some aluminium, so hey ho, miss there. I used like normal table salt again as a flux. And as you can see, the flux is very dry and powdery. Not the flux, the slag, sorry. Almost forgot my gloves. Oh, get in there, bugger. Awkward to hold on to. Shit. Well, the copper funnel has just come unstuck. Pain. Never mind, we will persevere. Closer. Very warm. Better do it that way. Where do I put my pliers? What else can I tip it into? There's still alley in there. I probably should have added some more flux, well more salt at this point, sort of put it back upright and slung in some more salt and then given it a good stir and maybe quickly put some more oil through it. It would have probably helped to reduce the aluminium content of the slag that was trapped in the bottom of the crucible from previous smelting attempts. Ooh, it's warm here. This is a piece of slag from when I've used table salt. As you can see, it's sort of black. It looks a bit metally, but I think that's where I've scraped the bottom of the pan of the crucible out for the first time. So I can pick up a bit from what I cooked out. You can see the slag sort of black. It looks very rough. God, it's hot standing next to this. It looks very, very rough. There we go. This is a piece of slag from before I used the table salt, so it has worked. It has definitely reduced it. The slag before I used the salt is very stuck together, but where I've been using the salt, the slag I was hooking out was sort of brittle. So the table salt, oh god, it's hot sitting next to them. Table salt definitely works. I wonder if I can get these things out now. Oh wow, they come out lovely. So with my cheap brownie tin moulds, they come out as long as you don't over pour onto the edges. But that's okay, I can deal with that. Just let all this cool down. I've got to go get in front of a fan, I'm boiling. Oh, blimey. I'm really warm. 2 seconds. I'm gonna get a drink. Alrighty then. I guess a summary of what I've just done. Hey, I wanted to make a smelting video because I see loads of them, and you know, it's very satisfying melting aluminium cans and watching it flow. It's quite intrinsic, entrancing. I was going to try and split mould, but I was chatting to one of my neighbours because he wondered what the noise was, and I showed him what I'd made, and he thinks I've built more of a jet engine than a foundry, but never mind, some sort of pulse jet. I suppose it sounds a bit like a pulse jet. He said to me not to go melting just cans down to cast billets. He said I need to add silicon, not the sort of stuff you get like for sealing up your windows and stuff. It makes the metal flow better, I think, and shrink less, but I don't have none. So he said I can use copper, or if I'm smelting cast aluminium, he said cast aluminium will have it already in. Obviously not if I've cast it, like cast parts. Things like sheet aluminium, which I've got a bit of, which I smelted down, and like pop cans and stuff, he said is very pure, like high grade aluminium. He said which isn't going to be very good for machining because it's probably going to gum up, it's going to be soft, it will shrink a lot in the casting. So the best thing to do, which is why I went and got the brownie case moulds, he said, is to melt down my aluminium, remove as much of the slag as possible, and he also said a bit of table salt if I've got no flux, and no flux remover. Apparently you can get some stuff that you throw in there and it makes like a skin, and all the flux you can sort of hook it up like it's a fishing net or something. He said I can use a bit of table salt, which worked really well. Very impressed with that. It changed the composition of the slag significantly from what did look like an alloyed crap with like a lot of aluminium in it to this sort of crusty, brittle like muddy, sort of dry, clayey sort of stuff. It's, yeah, there's not really any silver in it. So I'm imagining that means all the aluminium has come out, because I think the salt also makes the aluminium flow better as well. I could really do with my neighbour, who knows a damn sight more about this than me, which was quite fortunate. Yeah, so what I've got to do now is I can remelt down my purified aluminium, the little billets I've made, and then I can add either quite a lot of cast aluminium to it to bulk it out, or I can add some copper. He said like plumbing, like pipe copper, not pennies. I was thinking about pennies, but apparently pennies aren't copper no more. They're steel, because they're bloody worthless, and copper's worth more in like a penny size than an actual penny's worth. So yeah, so I'm going to try adding some copper into the mix, but I've got to clean out that crucible. It's really dirty. Or I might make a second crucible. Obviously it's a whole top of the foundry. I might make a second crucible up and use it only for once I've purified, removed the slag from the cans. I'm going to give you a tour of the foundry now. I can put up the video as well for the split mould. I just haven't tested it, and now I need to go get some copper, because apparently it wouldn't be a good idea me pouring 8-inch diameter round 8-inch long billet, because he said it's going to be sort of crappy quality. So add the copper into it and it'll be a lot better. So I'm just going to give you a tour of the foundry quickly. Okay. So first up, I didn't want to break this winch down. Like with the mechanism inside of my multi-point locking system, I used a couple of winches to create the gearing, but I didn't want to break this one down, because I thought, well, it's already a 2-speed and it's a really nice winch, so I don't want to ruin that. So I'm using the winch with a bit of cable onto my very ugly cam in order to tip it. I've got a couple of pillar block bearings supporting it. You can see originally where I'd cut out for the original spout to come out of, but I changed the design. This is a piece of 300 and something, I think it's 350mm, 400mm. I will have a look actually, because now I'm questioning myself. I've got a tape measure in here. Yeah. Is it 300, 350? 330mm diameter, that pipe. I've used a old gas bottle for the crucible. As you can see, there is still a fair amount of slag in the bottom of that. And then welded the top of my foundry to it with a spout and refractory. When I first test fired this, having the exhaust blowing flames straight at where my controls are was a very bad idea, so I put those two bits on there to help silence it as well. The burner is a pressurised fueling system with a Venturi built into it and a choke as well. I've used a bit of airline for me flexible bits so as I can tip it. 8mm piping. These are 2 radiator taps. Just get rid of that tape measure. They're my radiator taps. These are 2 what would you call them? Stopcocks. And then the tank holds 3 litres. Now 3 litres, I've still got what is that? Quarter of a tank left in there, and I melted like all of what I've just melted. And I probably was overrunning the burner to begin with. My frame isn't the best frame. I had to add bracing in at times and come up with a way of winching this. I regret now not placing the winch towards the front, because reaching back whilst trying to watch the spout is a little bit awkward. It's just a tiny bit too far for me to reach. But also I had to put it there so it didn't interfere with the foundry's body as it was tipped. There's still some of the aluminium left over from when it hit the floor. You can see the earth is sort of scorched, and what's left of all the cans that detonated in there. That was fun. So when my split mould fell off and hit the floor, it just dumped molten aluminium all over a load of pressurised paint cans, which wasn't good. And then it's on wheels because this thing is extremely heavy. One thing there's a brake here, I noticed, spring brake. I'm thinking about connecting that up down towards the front so as when I'm lowering the crucible it can't run away, because it will just zip and drop. So yes, that's the tilting foundry. I already have some ideas in my head now for Mark II. It's still going to tilt, but I am building a rotary tilting foundry with open direct smelting, which is when the flame is directly in contact with the material you're melting. Only issue with that, firstly I want a piece of reasonably heavy gauge pipe, at least 2 foot 24 inches, like, actually no, say 600 mil, more than 2 foot, between 2 and 3 foot would be ideal, because I've got to have refractory in there. 3 foot would be amazing. I could nick my cement mixer, but I don't want to. I'd rather build this from scratch. That's what I want to build as a Mark II. As I would really love to build my own metal planer, like the original sort of shaper. I love those machines. I've never seen one for sale. I think they're beautiful machines. You know, I sit there and space out to my little 10-inch Elliott shaper. I would love to have a metal plane. So I'm thinking if I can get the materials to build a large enough foundry, I'd want to be able to melt at least probably 100 litres of aluminium at a time. And I could do a similar sort of idea to the Gingrey shaper by making all my main castings out of aluminium and then using high quality steel, maybe like tool steel, something that maybe can harden for the ways and any parts that are going to be under friction and stress and that. But that's a long way off. I've got my ramps here. This is a self-deploying yard ramp, I think you'd call it. I've got a set of stairs at the front of my house, and it's a nightmare. Like my Victoria mill is about 2 tons, and that was a lot of fun bringing that down those stairs. I used some bits of C-channel and just made some little short stumpy ramps, but it wasn't the best way for bringing down old equipment that if you break it can't be replaced. It's not like modern machinery. Modern machinery you can go and grab a new one if necessary. You know, this is a piece of history, and if I were to drop an old machine I would never forgive myself. That would like really break my heart. I love old machinery. I love the age of like industrial revolution and when machines were mechanical. I just love watching mechanical motion. It's amazing. Anyway, I've gone off on one. If I can build a Mark II I will, and it will allow for a whole new potential on some of the projects I'm planning. but I've got to get my ramp finished first. That's going to need another fair bit of steel. I've got my 1/4" Smith bandsaw, big 10-inch bandsaw, to get running at the moment. I can't really touch that or the Vicky mill. The bandsaw is 3-phase, and I just don't have a cable long enough to reach down here as an extension lead. And the Vicky has been converted over to single phase. I don't know if I'm going to keep it like that or not, because I'd like to put back all the original features, like forwards and reverse selection. At the moment it's done with a series of switches that are literally just like light switches, and it looks horrible. If I could maybe find a way of putting the switching controls back inside the machine and having levers and that and having it look nice, then maybe, because it's got a 5 or 6 horsepower single phase motor on it. When I start that thing up, the lighting in the local neighbourhood like dims down a little bit. So yeah, it's very high draw. I'd rather have it as 3-phase in many ways. Also 3-phase has got more power. So yeah, but I'm wandering again. Yeah, I'll put this video up anyway. If people want to see my split mould design idea, it's only simple, but I was looking on like YouTube and I had a look online and I couldn't really find no split patterns. Not unless you want to go with graphite or anything. I might like, oh, you know, bit of scrap metal, bit of scrap aluminium. There we go, 3 aluminium billets. So yeah, if anyone wants to see that, I can post it. It's probably going to be a little while now before I get around to getting some copper and re-smelting everything, as I'd like to have a mess around with a couple of other things. Although I still want to make belt grinders. But I'm getting away from myself here. Thanks for watching, guys. I really hope you're, you know, enjoying the videos, maybe finding something useful about them. I would say it's fun making them. It is kind of stressful at times. But yeah, I do this every day anyway. This is my mindfulness therapy. This is how I deal with my disorder, and that I focus on this, and it seems to help. Granted, I'm not allowed, I wouldn't be allowed to use someone else's machinery because I'm likely to hurt myself or hurt someone else, but I can use my own machinery, so it's okay. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate the people who are subscribing and the ones who are commenting. Take care, and I will see you soon. Bye.